Skills. How to figure out the amount of change received. Why teach money and making change? There are many skills that are important for students with special needs to learn to be able to function as independently as possible. One skill that I believe is important involves teaching students how to work with money, with an emphasis being placed on knowing an amount of change they will receive during a transaction. Before a student chooses a post-secondary route, it is our goal to teach them how to complete as many tasks as possible on their own. We teach students with special needs new skills by modeling and providing all the accommodations they require to be able to complete and understand the skill. Every student will encounter expenses throughout their time at school, including lunch money, field trip costs, and money for school supplies. Even if they aren't responsible for the expenses, they still have to know how to obtain the money and what they get in return for that money. Teaching money. We teach students about important money skills early on during their school years, and working with money is a skill that will continue to be built upon. Teaching students with special needs about money is a skill that has to be scaffolded. You need to be building on strengths and teaching the baby steps that will lead to independence. Students with special needs should be presented with situations that will resemble real life as much as possible. Jerry Webster tells us, do not use fake plastic coins for low-functioning students with intellectual disabilities. They need to generalize coin use to the real world, and the plastic coins do not feel, smell, or even look like the real thing. Why is it important to teach and how to teach? Carol Gray developed a tool for students with autism that can be used with all children and is especially useful for students with special needs, involving using social stories to teach children about money. Social stories allow you to break concepts like money down into multiple steps that are easy to follow for students. She suggested teaching how you can do other things when you go to a store in addition to buying things, and you should discuss how and why students may feel frustrated when they go to a store but have to leave without purchasing anything. Teaching leaving without making a purchase allows you to have a discussion about the emotions a student may be feeling and how they should respond to those emotions. Victoria Godin describes how you can teach students many concepts by turning it into a role-playing game. When you teach money, you can pretend to be the cashier and the student pretends to be the customer, and then you can switch roles. Godin goes on to discuss how important it is to use repetition when you're trying to teach students a new skill, but it's especially important for students with special needs to have repeated practice. Brian Page, a business education teacher at Reading High School, states, parents can apply a lot of the methods they use for teaching kids other skills to money, and, if at all possible, keep it real, relevant, and hands-on. Modeling is a great strategy that can be used as you scaffold to make sure students understand what money is and how to use it before you move into concepts such as making change. Jerry Webster discussed how parents should start as early as possible when teaching kids about money, and you can narrate your actions as you buy groceries or pay bills to start the wheels turning for your kid. If students are able to identify coins and count coins, you can then move on to concepts and situations where they're completing transactions which will involve making change. You can provide real-life scenarios that give students steps to follow, including count your money before you go to the store so you'll know how much money you have to spend. Decide what type of item you'll be looking to buy when you get to the store. Check the price of the item. 4. Compare the price of the item to the amount of money you have to spend, and you're presented with 3 situations. Either 1, you have enough money. 2, you'll have to keep saving money and come back. Or 3, you need to choose another item. And step number 5, if you have enough money, take the item to the register to pay. Step 6, know how much change you'll receive before you get to the register if possible. Number 7, the student can be taught how to use the dollar more or next dollar up strategy if they are still struggling with determining the amount of change. Dollar more or next dollar up strategy. When you're role-playing and providing models for students, you may have a student or students that are having difficulty getting the concept of determining the change you'll receive when you make a purchase. Dr. Christine Reeve explains why the next dollar up strategy is useful to students when she states, the next dollar up strategy allows students to be more independent in the community. If they know how to determine if they have enough money and how much money to give the clerk, they can go to the store on their own. If students are learning about making change, the next dollar up strategy needs to be the first strategy taught because it allows students to see the overall concept. As mentioned previously, if a student knows what each coin is and can count coins and dollars, you can move on to teaching them about actual transactions. The Next Dollar Up strategy allows students to quickly determine whether or not they can make a purchase. You can teach a student this strategy by going through many of the same steps from previous slide. First, give students an amount of money to count. Second, show students pictures of items with price tags to represent items they may want to buy. Number 3, if they select an item, tell them to go to the next dollar up from the price tag amount to see if they have enough money to buy the item. For example, if the student selected an item for $11.69, the next dollar up would be $12. If they counted their money in step 1 and came up with $14.52, they would quickly see that they would have enough money to buy the item. Step number 4, next, tell the student that they could go to the register to purchase the item, and you will practice being the clerk. In step 5, you can take the money from the student and allow them time to attempt the subtraction problem that goes along with the transaction using the next dollar up. In this case, it would be $12 minus $11.69. Step 6. If students are struggling with the concept of making change, continue to provide them with examples where they only need to worry about the next dollar up. Step number 7. Switch roles when you're completing examples with students where you are the clerk and they are the customer, and then switch. Step 8. If a student has shown mastery of the skill after 3 examples in each of the 2 rows, move on to determine the amount of change they would have left overall using the amount of money from step 1. Step 9. Then you can have them select multiple items to buy and see if they'll have enough money when they total the items, and then do the next dollar up. So as closing remarks, as you can see now, the Next Dollar Up provides several strategies and allows you to be creative when teaching students about making change. The Next Dollar Up is available for purchase as an app as well for students who use assistive technology, and they may be a student with a disability who has limited communication skills, and the app would be a perfect way to work with them on this topic. Next, students may encounter issues when dealing with tax, but that will be another lesson to discuss. As long as students with disabilities can understand the overall concept of making a purchase and realizing you'll have money left or need to pick another item, they'll be much more comfortable in real-life situations involving transactions. When a student is approaching transition age, understanding as much as they can about money is a very important concept. Once students are going through the transition process, they'll encounter countless money situations, and they'll need to be comfortable in these situations. Unfortunately, if an individual isn't comfortable in money situations, they could quickly get taken advantage of when they're making or purchasing or paying a bill. The Next Dollar Up strategy will at least give them an introduction into knowing whether or not they have enough money to make a purchase, and whether they should have change or have to wait until later to complete the desired transaction. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to ask. Please feel comfortable in getting creative when working with students, and provide me with any feedback you may discover as you're working. And the resources I used were from Beth Kobliner, Christine Reese, Jerry Webster, and I also provided a link for the Next Dollar Up app. So feel free to take a look. Thank you.